guys, design thinking. What's it all about and where should we start? Now, my workflow might be slightly different to some people out there's workflow. So during this course, I will show you how I approach things. This will give you some sort of idea of my workflow and how I get to the final end results. So, design thinking starts like this. First of all, I'll have a meeting with a client, or whether it's online, or they'll send me some sort of idea that they've got, or they might send me some photos of Pinterest and things like that, things that they like. In some cases, clients don't know what they want. They will just say, listen, I want a super modern shop, or I want a classic-looking boutique-style store, and that sort of thing. So they usually give me some sort of brief, and they sort of push me into some direction. So what my workflow usually is I go paper first, so I design by sketch first, and I usually do this in a meeting environment with a client. Now, if you're doing this for yourself, it's a good idea to just grab your sketch pad and go and sit somewhere and just simply sketch out a couple of ideas. You know, I would just grab my pencil and then sit in a meeting as I would sit with you now, and I will start sketching and forming some sort of brief idea of what the client is looking for, and we'll just sketch away and sort of get some measurements. And the client might say that he wants a counter that's a certain height, they want to cover a certain area, and I just do some basic sketches and just to get my sort of head in a direction. If it's a semi-modern look, then obviously I'll make notes and that sort of thing. That is client specific. If I want to design a certain type of furniture item, which we will be doing in this course, which is a normal side table, then I'd say, okay, what type of look and feel do I want to go for? Something classic, something modern, something in between, whatever the case is. And I will design accordingly, and I'll just sketch up some ideas. So basically, I just go pencil to paper first, and I sketch up some sort of basic concepts and sizes and get a couple of things together. And so just brainstorm the idea, basically, I would say. It's not, you don't want to go and just simply dive into your computer, switch it on, and start design if you don't have a sort of a sense of direction of where you want to go with this. That's my workflow. Now, you might feel otherwise. You might feel that I can switch a computer on and I will just basically design from there, which is fine if that's what you want to do. So basically what I do is I go to paper first and I sketch. Now, when you design something, there is obviously, besides the CNC machine being able to do certain things, there's also ergonomic limitations. So in our case, we will work with a 16mm MDF sheet, which means that all our design elements need to sort of be built up out of the 16mm boards. And that's in essence what StockFit is about. So when I created StockFit, I didn't want to design a course that is suitable for all different kinds of thicknesses of wood and different types and whatever. I wanted to standardize it, to simplify the whole thing, and then build up from there. So you could always take a 16mm and double it up to a 32mm board if that's something that you want to do, if you understand the system itself. But 16mm is a common size in South Africa, and globally I think a lot of people use that 16mm sheet sizes. So we'll just stick to that for now. So with a design course on StockFit, we're limited to a material thickness of 16mm, and then we've got basic ergonomics. So for this side of the design section of the course, we're going to do a small little side table. Now, the side table has got sort of a couple of standard requirements. One of them being, what is the perfect height for a side table? Now, you can basically just go into Google, search, do an ergonomic search of a side table, and you'll get a whole bunch of different results. Side tables depend on the height of the sofa or the chair or whatever you've got next to you. So if you've got a low-level sofa, your side table can be a bit lower, depending on your client's needs. Now, a normal counter height would be 900mm high. A normal side table height would be anywhere between 450 and 500mm high, usually. You can make it a bit higher if that's what you want to do in your design, but I'm talking about standard heights. A normal table height is usually 780mm, and a bar counter height can be anywhere between 1050 to 1.1 meters type of height. Now, these ergonomic sizes are basically put in place because, first of all, that's the way people would use it. Most people, you've got to standardize something. You can't just go and make a sofa and just decide in your head, I want to make it so low or so high. because it wouldn't be comfortable to use if it doesn't fit a certain ergonomic structure. If you do a counter and it's a little bit too high, it would feel odd. If it's too low, it would also feel odd. So the standards are there for a reason. They work really well. So we will cover all the basics later on the ergonomics that we use in StockFit with depth and sizes of doors and those side of things. But for the moment, we're just going to do a side table, and we are going to do a smallish side table. So we're going to go with a 50 centimeter or 500 millimeter diameter top, and we're going to do a nice sort of semi-contemporary sort of legging on it. That's going to take about a half a sheet of material, give or take, if my calculations or my estimation is okay. So without further ado, let's just jump into the sketching stage, and I'll give you an idea of how I do it. Okay, so I've been messing around while we spoke in the earlier video, but this gives you an idea of what I've been sketching and working on. So the idea is to design a little side table. Now, as I mentioned before, we are limited with certain material thicknesses and heights and things like that. So what I've decided to do is to design let's call it calling it a highly modern design would be, wouldn't be accurate. I would say this is sort of a little bit of an Art Deco, almost contemporary type of feel, maybe a little bit of Bauhaus sort of influence somewhere, but it's just a little bit side table. Now, the reason why I decided to do this specific design is simply because this utilizes 16mm sheets, and it's a simple design. It's simple enough for most people to sort of get the hang of and to design and to understand how flat packing and that sort of thing works. And it's also nice enough to actually manufacture and use somewhere in your house or whatever the case is. So it's a basic design, but the idea still goes. So what I've decided to do, as mentioned earlier, we've got a height limitation of approximately 450 to 500 millimeters. So I think for the purpose of this exercise, we'll guesstimate this at about, let's say, 450 mils from top to the bottom. And then what I'll do is I'll just add, on the top itself, I will add another 16 mil. So in other words, this entire unit would be then 466 millimeters high. I think the top itself, we can go with a width of 500 mils. To give you some sort of a nice work surface or work area. And these legs that you see over here, I think what we'll do is we'll just make them 100 millimeters, and the total width of this, I think, would be nice if we do a 400 millimeters. Now this is a side view, and this is your top view. You'll notice that on the top view, I basically created this sort of almost like a medical cross type of look for the legs as you see them. So if you had to get the sort of a translucent or transparent type of view, this leg system would sort of expand that way and then that way again, and then form this sort of base for the top itself. So this is just my thinking for the moment. I think this is quite a simple design. It could work for what you guys want to do, or just to get the basics going. So I think just to highlight it maybe a little bit better, it will help to just do the 3D maybe with a pen. I don't know if the pencil is actually all that visible on camera, so we'll just sketch it out over here, use a ruler, draw a couple of lines, get the idea going. Now, as I mentioned, you don't have to do the sketching part if that's not something that you are either comfortable with or familiar with or whatever. I do recommend that you somehow, even if the client doesn't see it, is to actually sit down and work on a type of a sketch on your own, simply because it kind of gives you inspiration and direction. In when you do something freehand, it just, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, that's where your ideas come to life. Sometimes, though, while you're in the design side of things, on the software side of things, you might tweak the design using plugins and using all kinds of different tools in the design environment, which is also kind of cool, and that brings a whole new dimension to design itself and manufacturing. I mean, basically curves and using slices and using all kinds of different things can really enhance your design, but it it can also become quite an overwhelming process if you basically start with design on a computer first with no sense of real direction of where you want to go and what you want to do with this. I'm just saying that that's how I experience it. So I've been doing this for many, many years, and the workflow that I'm showing you now is something that really works well for me. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work well for you. So that gives you some sort of idea of the table that we want to build. I think just for the sake of some nice shading or whatever the case may be, we can just sort of highlight. So obviously this will be quite a dark spot on the design. Now obviously it also depends on what color we make the unit itself. The nice thing about the software is you can chuck a whole bunch of different colors and materials and finishes on here, and you can check it beforehand before you choose your final color. But I mean, once your design is in place and you know what you want to design, then life becomes a little bit easier for most, I would say. Just add a little bit more color to this. I think this might not even be visible on camera, it's such a light grey, but you get the idea. So I just want to show you basically how I would sit in a meeting, and I would have a quick discussion with the client, and then we'll sort of get to a type of visual. Now the nice thing about it is that the client can actually sit and watch you work, and then say, oh, okay, no, you're heading in the wrong direction. I don't like this. Oh, yes, I like that. Could you make it more like this? Could you make it less like that? Whatever, I don't know. Whatever the client wants. Now, a lot of clients actually don't even know what they want, to be honest. I find, I actually run into that quite often, where a client, they want something specifically, but they don't know what they want. And then when you present ideas, you have a hard time sort of reading them in a way. I've had that happen to me multiple times in the past. It's not a common thing because I also have customers that trust me 100% with my judgment, and they say to me, listen, design me a shop like you would want to design a shop, and then I would design a shop accordingly. And it usually works out quite well when I do it that way, simply because I've done it so many times. It's something that I'm very familiar with, and that I've done 2,000 times or something. But basically, okay, so you get the idea. So I think just for the purpose of this tutorial, let's just throw a little bit of shade in here. It's a very basic sketch. Don't want to overdo it. Just do. So now, okay, basically we've got a sketch here. We said that we'll do this at 100 millimeters. From here to there, I think we'll go 150, just to give it a nice oblong type of look to where it comes out. This height over here to the surface, I think we would make 450. And then the diameter of the top here, we would go with a nice, from this side all the way across to that side, we'll go with a 500 millimeters. And this obviously a 16 millimeter top. And I think we've got something going here. This is a simple design, but it will work, it will do the job, and yeah, let's go into the software side of things.